Good morning, all.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's like you people are tired. You don't want to attend lectures again. Hmm? What happened to others now? We're just 10 of us here, or 10 of you here, and
Maybe they are celebrating Salah, sir.
oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. And you're saying that from experience. You're right. It's true. It's okay. Let me not be too hard on them now, if that's the case.
Thank you,
Because
sir.
ideally we're supposed to allow them enjoy. It's okay. You're all welcome to the day's class. And as usual, we're going to start with a brief recap of what we did last time. I don't know if anybody can assist us. If you remember what we discussed, if you can remember what we discussed last time, please kindly unmute and speak.
Okay. I'm Claret. Amen.
Okay.
Yeah, we did ethical responsibility as a professional. So we discussed about professional competence. The social worker shall remain proficient in the professional practice and continue to improve in knowledge and skills. We also talk about private business and dishonesty. Then we talk about misrepresentation. The social worker shall not make any form of misrepresentation to clients and to the employers and the general public. We discuss about value conflicts. The value conflicts happen to is a situation in which a social worker values personal or professional should clash with the value system of a client or agency. So we say that this week I will discuss about a problem faced by social worker. That's the only thing I can say for now, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that beautiful input. Those were some of the things we did last time. I don't know if someone else has one or two to say. Any other contribution on what was discussed last week? We've all forgotten. Okay, if I may ask, what does financial transparency entails? Financial transparency. It's a question. Financial transparency, what does it entail when working with an organization or an institute, a social work institution or organization?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Juliet. Basically, Basically, I would say that when it comes to organization or any firm at all, financial transparency, I consider it the practice of sharing a company's financial information with stakeholders such as the employees or investors and even the public openly. Providing clear, honest, and accessible details about revenue or expenses, assets, and other liabilities. This helps to ensure that relevant parties have a good understanding of the financial situation and how it is being managed. Timely reporting, accurate disclosure of information regarding the finance. We got this is that, accessibility and accountabilities and all of that, openness. Like I have to be honest and transparent when dealing with finances.
Fine, thank you. And why is this important? If I may ask, why is this important?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
This is Shedrack on the line. I think last week is part of what I gained. You taught this thing under administrative
Yeah.
transparency, where you mentioned financial transparency, that it's very important to social work, that it builds trust, then it promotes ethical practice, it encourage donor confidence in terms of transparency in fund,
Thank you very
encourage.
much.
So
You're
you
very
mentioned so many things under it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. At least you've been able to lift my spirit. Thank you for all your contributions. It's an indication that knowledge was gained last week in the course of our lectures. And we believe that by the end of today, we're going to learn a lot too that would further widen the scope and our understanding of the ethics, values, and principles of social work. So we will be starting from problems faced by social workers today. Right, so we'll be looking at most of the problems. The social work profession, just like every other profession, comes with some challenges. There are some problems that the social workers, or there are some challenges in the society that pose a problem that militate against the effectiveness of the social worker or social work profession in Nigeria. So basically, we'll be looking at those problems in Nigeria, right? One is lack of common perspective in social work related issues. Common perspective in social work related issues. Please, I am a very realistic person, and at the same time, I like addressing issues and ensuring that we don't proceed in error. Like we always say, or like I've always said, social work is a practice-based profession. It's practice-based oriented, right? And whatever knowledge you're getting now is expected for you to build on it and use that knowledge to correct the problem, not to exacerbate it, not to perpetuate it, not to worsen the situation, right? So now, from the beginning, we've been talking about social work, and the challenges, why social work is not, is still growing, is still trying to stamp its feet in Nigeria, and all that, right? So get these problems at the tips of your fingers and try to see how, as you grow in the profession, you can contribute in addressing it, right? One is lack of common perspective in social work related issues. Many Nigerian society, or in many Nigerian society or states, certain issues related to individual autonomy, collective orientation, individuals' rights, responsibilities are difficult to resolve in any society. You see, just like a traditional African man, we are faced or we are caught to choose between our tradition and modern forces. So we face a lot of problems when it comes to issues that has to do with people's culture. And going forward, abandoning those culture becomes a problem, especially when people begin to think that, this is how we used to do it. This is how our forefathers used to do it, and we're supposed to keep it, continue to do it in commemoration of them, or to respect them and let them know that we, we value their contribution, right? So if we abandon these things, how do we show that we value them and we still honor them? So you see that it becomes a problem, and that's not withstanding, or as if that's not enough. You know, we have a plethora of this group. You will see the Igbo man saying, okay, things should be done according to my culture. The Yoruba man will say things should be done according to my culture. The Hausa man would say it should be like this. The Ijo man, the Idoma man, the Thief man, and lots more. And as if that's not enough, we also have some influential Western groups, different groups from the Western world, who also want to influence the social work profession in Nigeria. And as a result, there's lack of a common perspective. And that is why some of my colleagues who are trying to advocate for indigenous social work practice. Indigenous social work practice in the sense that where social workers are expected to come together and agree on one perspective of social work related issues and how it should be addressed. The way it suits the African society, the way it is suitable for we Nigerians, not just copying and pasting the Western style of practicing social work. There is need for us to indigenize social work, for us to domesticate it, right? You see, if you go to most of the African countries where you see evidence of social work practice, you notice and agree with me that most of what you have there as social work is the westernized way or the Western way of doing social work. So due to this lack of common perspective, becomes a problem to resolve social work related issues in Nigeria. The second point is powerlessness. Powerlessness. Oh, sorry, I think, okay, the second point I want to highlight is powerlessness of the social worker. Powerlessness in the sense that the social worker, in many cases, intends to do their work with decency, but lacks the power to do so, especially when their superiors are not decent. Some of you who are working with some agency or NGO can attest and agree to this. You see a situation where you work with an NGO, but at the end of the month, when they are writing reports, they want you to doctor the reports. They want you to do things. Your superior would want you to do things that is against the ethics of the social work profession. And in such a situation, you wouldn't have any option than to do according to what your boss is saying, because you need to protect your work. You need to be you need to have a source of income to feed your family and to take care of yourself. So you see a social worker trying to break some principles, some rules, some ethics, just because they lack the power to maintain decency, right? There are other institutions and authorities on which the social worker has to depend on while facing difficult situations. So sometimes, even when you're independent, you're known to be a decent person, but some of the NGOs or the organizations you will see yourself collaborating with might want to cut corners, might want to make it difficult for you to maintain decency. And since you cannot totally control what is happening in their agency, it becomes a problem. It has to be in that situation. It places you in a position of being powerless, right? So another example is, you see, especially in healthcare institutions or healthcare facilities where I don't know why, but in Nigeria, the only person that is supposed to head the entire hospital is a trained medical doctor, right? A medical professional. And that means throughout the year comes in, year goes out, the social workers as well as all professionals must continue to follow the dictates of the medical professional who happens to be the head of that institution. And in such a situation, whatever he or she says is what the social worker would do, because the social worker has no choice but to go along with his or her change situation. At best, he can achieve minimal changes. At your level, you can achieve minimal changes. And anything beyond this involve risk. And not everyone can afford that risk to go to the extent of challenging the constituted authority, right? So powerlessness is a serious challenge or problem faced by social workers in Nigeria, right? And this makes ethical decisions difficult to make. And as a result, it has some consequences for the social worker, because the social worker cannot function effectively and even to maintain integrity. But then, we are not saying this to say that the social worker should use this as an excuse not to do their work diligently, right? And mind you, the fact that these problems are there does not mean we should just flow with it. It can still pose a challenge to you. Even when following it can still lead to you losing your job. It can still even lead to you harming others that would expose you to litigation. So, although powerlessness is a problem and a challenge in ethical decision making, you should also be wise enough to know how to go through it. Like we said earlier, some time ago, I said it would be wise at every given point in your relationship with your boss, whatever action is asking you to take, please get a consent from him, so that whenever you're asked, you will tell them you did that based on the dictates of your boss. No matter what, be it through chats, email, a letter, and whatever, please make sure you have a backup. Make sure you have a backing, something that will prove that, okay, fine, you were asked, you were told to do that. Because when the thing finally exposes, your boss will abandon you. Because most times what they ask us to do are actually wrong, and they know, not like they are not aware. So going forward, another problem is crisis of value in Nigerian society. Crisis of value in Nigerian society. Many social scientists have commented on crisis of values in Nigeria. Values of honesty, propriety, concern for others, accountability among government officials and corporates are seen as lacking in society. In fact, whenever a Nigerian is given opportunity to serve at a higher level, he sees it as an opportunity to go and get his or her own share of national cake, and it becomes a problem. This value, according to some, the crisis of value is because we have forgotten our ancient values. For others, crisis of values is because Nigerian society is still undergoing the modernization process. And as such, people still tend to take advantage of the process. So social workers have to live and work in situations that naturally affect them. So naturally, the Nigerian or an African man is gradually losing touch with our value system. You see, everybody wants to go there and steal. And like some say, Nigeria is still undergoing modernization. Yes, granted. You know, in the past, why our forefathers were sincere, the truth of it is they were sincere, no doubt. They had integrity, but they were not exposed to a lot of opportunities that would that are tempting, that will make them want to steal like we do today. So, like they said, you don't judge a man or you don't know a man until you give him money and power. So our forefathers never had that privilege or that opportunity of being tested. So, granted, we can conclude that in time past, people had integrity more than now. But then, according to this other school of thought, they are saying that the reason is because we are now exposed to opportunities and we are undergoing modernization. Since these opportunities are there and modernization is still creeping in gradually, people tend to take advantage of the situation. For example, in the West, you see that everywhere there are CCTV cameras. So even when people tend to do wrong, there will be that consciousness that I might be caught because there are CCTV cameras here. Right? So because of those technologies in place, they tend to checkmate or even control the extent to which people delve into crime or wrong behavior, right? So, but since those facilities are lacking in Nigeria, because we are still undergoing modernization, people tend to lack values, right? And these are things that the social workers have little or no control over. And we find ourselves in this environment, in such environment, it naturally affects us. Now, we are not saying this, that we are not saying that these things are expected from social workers themselves. But these are situations social workers find themselves naturally that they cannot control. So it will be embarrassing and very bad and very wrong for a social worker to be caught in the web of all these problems. So we are only pointing out the fact that social workers happen to find themselves in this situation, not that they are the ones or they are the ones doing or carrying them out, right? Now, we also have another problem, which is voluntary associations as money-making machines. Yes, if you've been following that man, you hear that man say, "Oh, look, to me, it's a very wrong statement because you cannot be a judge over your matter." He's busy saying he's the only NGO that has integrity in Nigeria. There's a reason why he said that. It's because most, in short, majority of the NGOs in Nigeria lacks integrity. The reason for which those NGOs were set up in the first place, the motivation, they were not driven by the passion, the motive to help people, but the motive behind their motivation was to make money. And that is why you see them venturing into NGO to access international funding, national donors, to divert funds to themselves, right? So we see that as a problem in Nigeria. Most of these NGOs comes and these monies are being given, and yet you wonder what are these money used for, right? If you go to the north, and even here in this part of the world, the country, right? you will be shocked at the amounts international and local NGOs and even the federal government, what they release on a daily basis to take care of vulnerable population. But yet you won't see the impact. I was opportune to attend a training in Abuja where doctors and nurses are being trained on how to care for HIV infected population, vulnerable populations. And if you see the kind of money this NGO is pumping, and yet we still have HIV people that are suffering. So we have problems with implementation. We have problems with these agencies or these organizations, NGOs, hoarding cash, hoarding money, not using the money for the purpose for which it was given out. So this too is a problem in Nigeria. So we have a lot of them. In fact, if we should go about trying to point them out, time will not be on our side. We have the issue of lack of importance given to studying and discussing professional ethics. You see, because the Nigerian society lacks integrity. We also shy away from educating our students, the upcoming generation, on the importance of integrity or ethics, right? So why all social work educators consider social work ethics to be important? It is given secondary importance in the curriculum. You go to most institutions, you notice that ethics are not being taught in schools. And even in the institutions where ethics are being taught is part of the curriculum, the mood and manner in which they are going about teaching this ethics is not even motivating, right? Students frequently consider it to be idealistic rather than something which should be practiced in the field. They don't see it as being realistic. So the social worker syllabus of some universities in Nigeria do not even have ethics as a component of classroom teaching. So this is a problem. Another problem is lack of professional bodies. Yes, with all due respect to the Chartered Institute of Social Work, who is trying its best to ensure that social work has its right footing in Nigeria. Most of the professional bodies in Nigeria are like a toothless bulldogs. They are just existing, but they are not active. So the existence of professional body was supposed to give much needed training to support social workers. Secondly, if any social worker is being harassed for legitimately raising relevant issues, the professional body can give him or her support. So if there were to be a strong social work professional body in Nigeria that is having the responsibility of supporting its members, some social workers would have been expressing concerns, creating awareness and challenging repugnant practices because they know that even if the government comes for them, the professional body will stand by them. But then we are lacking in this regard. So every social worker will be looking at, and me go talk so that make them come arrest me. I don't want to go kiri. So that too is a problem. And as a result, it becomes difficult for social workers to take issues of public concern without fear. Right? We also have lack of support from civil society that have to do with the social work profession in Nigeria is struggling to gain attention and recognition from governments and the society at large. This year's Social Work Day, I was privileged to attend a show in Enugu on a TV show to talk about social work. And to this shock, or to my dismay, I noticed that most of the persons that interviewed us never heard of social work, not to talk of its existence in Nigeria. So we see that we don't even have the support of civil society. And the social work professionals are not even doing enough to collaborate with civil society, because this collaboration with civil society will go a long way in advocating and creating awareness about our responsibilities. Sadly, in Nigerian society, the Nigerian society does not know the difference between professional and voluntary social work professionals. That is why you see people who are not social workers calling themselves social workers. And oftentimes, these are people that understand or knows the importance, the value of social work in the society. But funny enough, those who are even privileged to do social work sometimes will be shying away from telling people, I'm doing social work in school. Those days in school, some of our colleagues, we ask them, what are you studying? They will tell you, I'm studying sociology and anthropology. So because the name is very big, they prefer to associate with sociology and anthropology and shy away from the social work they are studying. That is because that is the environment we find ourselves, because there's not much awareness as to the importance, the value, and the existence of social work in Nigeria. And because of these persons who are not social workers but claim to be social workers, their misdeeds have contributed to the loss of image and the moral authority of social workers. People now suspect that social workers have ulterior motives when they take up social issues. So even when a social worker should own and manage an NGO today, people will not take them seriously. And that's why very dark man could wake up and say, apart from his own NGO, there is no other NGO in Nigeria that has integrity. And that is a very big slap, a very big blow to all other agencies, especially the ones owned and managed by social workers. And I was expecting an association of NGOs managed and owned by social workers to come up and challenge that statement. But up till today, he still repeats it from time to time, and nobody is challenging that. So all these have resulted in lack of public support for social worker and has weakened our power to achieve social change. Yeah, good morning. Sorry. All right, so all this contributes to the powerlessness or weaken the social workers' ability or drive to push for social change and achieve significant success in pushing for change. We'll now be looking at professional boundaries in social work. Professional boundaries. But before we proceed, I would like to ask, based on what we discussed, is there any question? Is there anything you want us to address?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Mrs. Aningozi George. I wanted to ask, or rather, I want to ask, what is the professional body doing to help the body itself have the power to challenge such accusations on social workers?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That is why I said, before I delve into this topic, I said, I'm a very realistic person. I like addressing issues. And the reason I made that statement is because we, at this end, we are training upcoming social workers. And we expect that exposing these areas to you would put you in a better position to address it, right? Now, as for the bodies, yes, we have some existing bodies. For example, the Chartered Institute of Social Work. But then, each of these bodies have their mandates. For example, the Chartered Institute of Social Work, mandate is to train social workers and license them. That is the mandate of the Chartered Institute of Social Work. Now, these bodies that are supposed to challenge issues that comes up in the society, I don't even know if they exist. And I doubt. For example, if we have a body that is saddled with the responsibility of overseeing the entire activities of NGOs, or ensuring that NGOs are being coordinated by social workers, then they would have challenged that statement. To the best of my knowledge, the Council of Social Work is yet to be instituted. We have an act that the social work profession room to institute a Council of Social Work as a body, but that body is yet to be instituted. So since last year, I don't know what is holding us back from instituting it or from setting it up. But I believe that once we succeed, then they'll begin to be put modalities in place to checkmate most of these things. So the few bodies we have are just limited by what their mandates can allow them to do. For example, we have National Association of Social Work, NASO. It is an association, right? We also have National Association of Social Work Educators. Social work educators, right? Their mandate is to teach social work students, train social work students, right? We also have the Association of Medical Social Workers too. These ones are domiciled in healthcare institutions. They are just there to care for the welfare of social workers in healthcare institutions, right? But then, without this strong national presence and body, there's little or nothing they can do. That is why you hear me say that these bodies are like toothless bulldogs. They are like toothless bulldogs because they lack the power to push or challenge some abnormalities. But hopefully, Joy Princeville, please, can you cancel this action you're taking? You're sharing your screen. All right, thank you. Because they lack these national powers, or because we are yet to have this national body, it becomes difficult for us to address some issues of public concern. I hope that addresses it.
Yes, I can understand now that each body has its own mandate that they must adhere to.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as if that's not enough, we don't even have
Then once
don't even have the structure to address most of those issues. But the reason we are doing this is to help you understand, because in the end, like we said, it's a practice-based profession. In the end, you should also know what to do to help address this issue, because your responsibility or your as a social worker in equity, when you become social worker, a licensed social worker tomorrow, your responsibility is not just to the clients. Remember, you have ethical responsibilities to your colleague, you have ethical responsibilities to your profession, you have ethical responsibilities to an organization, your client, and the rest. So addressing issues of this nature is part of the social worker's responsibilities. So identifying these problems will put us in a better position to see how we can come up with research, informed policies that would address these problems. Professional, or someone wants to say something? Any other? Obiano, please. Jovita, please kindly mute your mic. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Going forward, we'll now be looking at, we'll now be considering professional boundaries. Going forward, what do we refer to as professional boundaries? Professional boundaries in social work are a set of guidelines, expectations, rules of engagement, set of ethical and technical standards in the social care environment. They set limits for safe and acceptable as well as effective behavior by workers. Those rules of engagement, those rules of conduct that defines how a social worker should relate with his or her client in the course of professional relationship is what is referred to as professional boundaries. A social worker is not expected to be too casual with his or her clients. You're talking with your clients, you're being unnecessarily playful with your clients, smiling, especially if it happens to be a client of an opposite sex. Those rules of engagement, those rules of conduct, those guidelines and expectations are what is referred to as professional boundaries. So the social worker is expected to maintain a professional boundaries in the course of helping the clients. So your clients are not, would I say, are not binded by these principles. So you, as a social worker, from the beginning of your engagement with your client, is expected to put your client in a position where he or she understands those guidelines and follow them through. Now, this would help give you a soft landing as a social worker. This will help you manage the situation and manage the clients properly. For example, if you're a man and a single man at that, trying to work on, or you have this client that is a lady, and probably a single lady too. You should be careful as to when you meet with these clients, where you meet with these clients, and when these clients should even call you. So if you happen to have an appointment with this client, and the client dresses provocatively for the first time, as a social worker, it's good for you to address it, because ideally, when working with your client, for the sake of confidentiality, you're expected to go to an isolated environment, not really isolated or a very private environment, but an isolated one where the client can feel free to express his or her concerns without being worried or scared that someone else can instruct, right? Now, and this client that you're supposed to take to a separate environment and a private one or an isolated environment for the purpose of interview and counseling is now dressed provocatively. As a social worker, you're expected to tell the client to stop dressing that way when coming to see you. By so doing, you send a message to that client. So it is good to maintain those relations or these boundaries to avoid exposing yourself to malpractice suits and litigations, right? So social work is a profession built on interpersonal interaction. Social workers or social work is a profession that assumes that people who struggle with poverty, trauma, oppression, mental illness, or other disadvantages is necessary for a functioning society. So because social workers often involve themselves in sustained interactions with individual clients, it becomes imperative that you establish professional boundaries with clients. These people are vulnerable, and at that level, they can do anything just to survive. Have you seen somebody that is trying to survive? He can do anything. Some persons have been deprived of something for a very long time. And during the course of professional relationship, if they see you as someone that can give them what they want, it could be sex, it could be money. They can push hard, directly or indirectly, to get what they want. So as a social worker, you need to be careful. And one shocking aspect of this, of what we are saying is, sometimes these same persons might end up accusing you of manipulating them. So please, we need to be careful, especially for the guys, when it comes to the point of working with a female client. Sometimes even when she gives you, or she obliged, like she accepted willingly, if at some point it's not going the way she expected, you will still be accused of taking advantage of her. And if investigations are carried out and it reveals that at some point you had some relationship with your client, no matter your explanation, you cannot justify that action. So you have to maintain boundaries. You have to maintain, and that is why it's referred to as professional boundaries. Mind you, that client came to you because of his or her credentials. Earlier on, we talked about what we refer to as dual relationships. You have an existing relationship with your client, and that is a professional relationship. Any other relationship outside the reason why your client came to you is an additional relationship that makes it two relationships, a dual relationship. And as a social worker, you're expected to avoid anything that will bring you close to your client, apart from the problem that makes your client to come to you. Be it business, financial transaction. In fact, at some point, I even told us that your client is not your friend. Your client is not your customer. In fact, if you see your client going to make hair in the same place you used to make your hair, it is advisable to even leave. Yes, quote me, it is advisable to change that place until maybe after termination. In fact, there are some situations where even after termination, it is still not advisable to share the same space, or will I say business space, or where you go to make your hair or do one or two things with your clients. For example, if you're working with HIV infected clients, even after engagement, confidentiality is still important. So if you now say, okay, fine, and I've terminated my professional relationship with this client, I can go to the same salon where she used to make her hair. And after you get to that place, later on, two months later, she now noticed that people are now aware of her HIV status. Who do you think she's going to suspect? And the time she happens to get stumbled on that information is immaterial, because she can still say you told them or you revealed that secret when you were still having engagement with her. So what would you say? So it's better to avoid. That is why it is referred to as professional boundaries. Those guidelines, those boundaries you observe, that relationship between you and your client is a professional one. So anything outside that professional relationship should be avoided. Now, what are professional violations? Let us now look at professional violations. Professional violations are major concerns in social work. The primary issues with boundaries has to do with power differentials between the professional and the clients, right? Now, the best known form of boundary violation is that of a professional seducing the patients or the clients. Other issues related to boundaries might concern the sharing of personal information with clients. So, a social worker who shares his or her personal information, like your personal contacts, your personal address, and even your social media username, sharing your personal cell phone or home telephone number will be inviting the client into your home, and that is a boundary violation. So we need to be careful. We need to know all these things and put them in perspective, right? Now, you can read that for yourself. You can read that in the material. Now we now have establishing rules. How do you establish rules of contact? If you cannot share your personal phones, your email addresses with your clients, then how do you do that? How can your client reach out to you? Now, you see, sometimes too, these rules of engagement are not just to protect the client and you alone. It's also there to protect other things, like your relationship. It's also there to protect your mental health. For example, you're not the cause of their problem. The client should not be calling you when you're supposed to be with your husband or with your wife. It is wrong. And that is why in every social work firm or institution, there's supposed to be a modality in place, but not the modalities in place that addresses, that is set up to address clients' challenges 24/7. Like in the medical field, even when the medical doctor is not around, there's someone on call that if you happen to have emergency, that doctor on call can see you the whole brief, pending when your own doctor will come. So tell your clients what numbers they can call in a crisis situation. So the organization you're working with should have a phone number that is on 24/7 that clients can call at any time. Refrain from giving your personal contacts. Protect your privacy on social media. Yes, very important. Protect your privacy. Now we are living in a world that is advanced in terms of technology, AI. You can be in your house now. Someone can use AI and remove you from your house and put in a plane and tag you and say me and the social worker in Mbina traveling to Abuja for weekend enjoyment. Whereas you're in your house looking for one cup of rice to eat. So it's good for you to even protect your social media privacy, not to be, let's say, so that your client might not be tempted to want to interact with you, to want to tag you unnecessarily, to want to share your post or your opinion unnecessarily. Maintain confidentiality. In fact, when it comes to social work, confidentiality can never be emphasized, right? You don't want to disclose your client's struggles outside of the professional context. So like we say, professional context has to do with maybe the organization you're working with, your clients, your superior, and maybe another agency or organization you are collaborating with in addressing a client's issue. That is a professional context. So the principle of confidentiality also binds your colleague, your organization, and the other organization. So outside this professional context, you're not expected to share your professional or the private struggles of your clients, right? Going forward, we'll now be looking at demonstrating clear interpersonal behavior. Yes, apart from setting clear boundaries, it's also important for you as a social worker to demonstrate clear interpersonal boundaries. There are some boundaries you set and it sends a message. One of these boundaries, from the beginning of your engagement with your client, please, that is why I said social workers should know their onions. There are things you should envisage, and from the beginning of your engagement with that particular client, begin to address it. It's not until you begin to see those problems projecting itself before you start making noise. No, from the beginning. Because of your skills in interpersonal relationship, you should be able, from the beginning phase, should be able to introduce and identify yourself. Tell the service user that is the client from the beginning phase what you intend to achieve and how you intend to achieve success in that professional relationship, and how the client too can support the process. And from time to time, try to seek feedback from others, understanding how your reactions with your clients or your interaction with your client has or is faring, right? So you need to be careful from the beginning. And one of the ways you can do this is to establish clear physical boundaries. Establish clear physical boundaries. To some of you, you cannot do without talking or touching someone. You're so comfortable, you're so relaxed while discussing with people to the point of you talk and you're touching someone. That is so unprofessional. That is so unprofessional. So it is important that you do not touch clients in any inappropriate way. There are sometimes you need to touch clients. For example, if you want to sympathize or in fact, social workers are not even expected to sympathize with, but we empathize with clients, right? But even when it means it requires you touching a client, you should avoid touching a client in a way that
Hello, are we there?
We're there, but we're not hearing you.
I think his network.
We are not hearing you. Network issue.
Maybe network or again. Yes, network.
Yes, network has locked him out.
We're not hearing anything. No. Niger network.
That's it.
Also, my dear.
That is
We
it.
are surviving.
I swear, man. Seriously.
We are surviving.
You will buy my for the same thing, buy wife for the same thing, buy mama data. You sabi.
I have been trying to connect for more than 45 minutes. I just see myself. I say, see yourself now.
Is the network. That's the problem now. It can be anywhere.
Yeah. His network that logged him out.
Is it?
This one.
So
This one.
We exercise patience.
Yeah. Niger. It is well.
I'm sure the man is struggling to come back.
Yes. That's true. That is true.
In an important meeting, you are struggling to get back to the network. It's waiting there.
Yes. Nigerian situation now. Wow.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. This is Mercy Praise.
We can have a small chat since he's away, depending when he will come back.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, some of these professional bodies, or let's say professionalism, or how will I even, like, let's say insurance, and so they have a regulatory body that regulates their activities.
Yes.
From what I see or get to understand is that NGOs are being regulated by CAC.
Yes.
And I
because
feel
they register with CAC.
I understand that one. Even insurance companies have to register with CAC.
Hello.
Okay, okay, the teacher is back.
Okay, so sorry for that. The call came
Welcome.
in. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. So, establishing clear boundaries
Welcome back.
or entails that we do not touch our clients inappropriately or in a way that will be sending a wrong message. So, and even when your motives, your intentions are right, please be careful. Be careful. People are going through a lot and they can misplace or misinterpret something for the other. Sometimes there's a way you look at people and they will tell you, the way this guy looks at me is so gentle. But that's your natural way of looking. Social workers are deliberate and intentional people. So when relating with our clients, we be intentional and be deliberate. Be professional. You're touching your client, touch your client, or maybe you're shaking your client or greeting your client. Do that in a way that you won't be sending a motive and a wrong message to your client. Sometimes even when you're shaking your client, it will not be like, see the way she or see the way he even shook my hands. So please establish clear physical boundaries. Another one is dress appropriately. Yes. Your style of dressing would also signal professional boundaries. You're a lady and you have this male client that comes to you and you want to dress, you're dressing provocatively to an interview session or a counseling session with your client. That this client you're supposed to attend to him in a private setting. So you'll be sending a wrong message. So while you're putting a very tight skirt or tight trouser, don't be surprised tomorrow. Your client will come with a see-through dress, or your client will begin to make some advances at you. And let me tell us, we live in a very funny world. Those days, we're careful of not sending a wrong message to the opposite sex. But now, even the way you relate to people of same sex, you should be careful. Because there's a way you talk to your fellow guy or girl, they'll be thinking, they'll be feeling like, it's like this person is one of us, or this person is also a gay or a lesbian. So I want to be careful. So even when you feel that, okay, fine, after my client is a lady and I'm a lady too, no problem. I can put on pump short or a short skirt or a very tight trouser. Before you know, that your female clients will start making advances, will start touching you provocatively. Same thing applies to the guys too. So want to be careful. And in the course of your relationship with your client, please refrain from discussing your personal life. That is not why you're there. Don't go about telling your clients, you see this social work they do. I for don't dey here, I for don't do this. So I have 10 children. My husband abandoned me.
Yes, with bread. Go wear bread. Okay, cut one.
We want to be careful when discussing with our clients.
Oma, you make you feature one day, not really.
Mbina Clements, your mic is unmuted. Please mute it.
Sorry, sir.
So, granted, there are times you can use your private life experience to help your clients, teach your client. That notwithstanding, you can do that without necessarily telling them those experiences are real. There are times you can even let them know that, okay, fine, those experiences you're sharing with them are your personal experiences, but let it be discussion or experiences that are geared towards helping them to learn, not just to gossip about your private lives. I'm coming, please. Let's Sorry about that. So you want to refrain from discussing your personal life with your client, because another thing is, by the time you start discussing your personal life, your client will want to do the same. And before you know, the purpose for that meeting, the purpose for that discussion or professional relationship will be defeated. You end up discussing something different from what you're supposed to discuss with your client. And by the end of the day, you won't achieve anything. Now, how do you avoid dual relationship? One of the ways, let's look at dual relationship. One of the ways you can avoid dual relationship is to watch for conflict of interest. If you're a social worker in a small community, and there's a chance you might meet your clients in other contexts, such as church, school, or in another social setting, try to limit your contact with your clients. Earlier on, I cited an example of a salon, a barber's or a hairdressing salon. Even in church and markets or other social gatherings, if you know you cannot avoid going to that same place, please limit your contacts with your client in those environments. And if possible, stop talking to people around so that your clients will know that, okay, fine, whenever you go to that place, you just mind your business. In fact, whenever your client comes, sometimes your client would want to do some investigation. Your client might even be the one to start asking questions about you. And I noticed this person used to come to this place. This person can be very quiet. And you know, especially women, how you can start gossips. This person can be very quiet. She's asking that question to get something. So if you're actually not quiet, some will say, hey, that one. Now that lady you say quiet, that one can be a bit talkative. They come here, they tell us about what they happen for where she did work. So you get the point. So if you happen to find yourself in a rural setting where service providers are limited, let's say we have just one hairdressing salon in that community. Please, since you cannot avoid going to that place, please, when you go there, if possible, don't talk to anybody. And limit your contact with your clients. Even when your client is there, if possible, don't even talk to your clients. After the formal greetings, don't talk to anybody till you leave. So if you run into your clients while in the gym or a grocery shop, minimize your encounter. Be polite and professional, but do not linger in a social capacity. Do not relate with your client. Greet and pass. This does not mean you should ignore your client, though, but do not start a social interaction. Do not agree to favors for your client outside professional relationship. Do not agree to go to market for your client. Do not agree to give your client a ride. Do not agree to babysit for your clients. These activities can gradually snowball to putting you in a position where you would compromise professional boundaries. Another way you can avoid dual relationship is to prohibit sexual relationship with your clients or former clients. Please avoid having anything to do with your clients and former clients when it comes to sexual relations. Granted, it is possible to get married to your clients, but let it be after termination. After you must have terminated that professional relationship. And during the course of that professional relationship, please, there shouldn't be anything related to intimate relationship. Because if there's anything related to intimate relationship, if you think that, if you want to claim that, yes, these are a sexual relationship started after the professional relationship, my dear, if you happen to have any intimate relationship with your clients during the course of engagement, that is when that intimate relationship starts, not when you claiming that it started, right? So avoid it, right? Going forward, decline to enter into financial relationship with your client. Your clients must never give you money. You must never accept money or gift from your clients. There are some times you cannot help it. You know, we happen to find ourselves in an environment where we interpret acceptance differently. Like, for example, if you go to my village, and I believe it's applicable to most African communities, if you come to my house and I give you food, then you eat, it shows that you love me. So if you reject my food, you're sending a message that that means you're coming with a wrong motive. Then I should be careful. You get the point. So there are times people who want to appreciate you sincerely. Please don't accept gift from your clients in a way that would be questionable. There are ways you can go about it. For example, after termination, your client can appreciate you. And those appreciations should not be in private. To avoid sending a wrong message. For example, if your client wants to send you, you can talk to your superior or your colleague that, please, oh, I work with a client and the client wants to appreciate me. You can deliberately get the appreciation or the gift in presence of your colleagues, in presence of your superior. And if it has to do with financial or bank transfers, you can collect the money with your colleague's account number and explain why you're collecting that way. Like I said, whatever you're doing, there must always get a consent, an indirect consent that will speak for you tomorrow. For example, if you're receiving a transfer from your clients as an appreciation, you can write back to your clients. You will notice I sent an account that is not mine. I did that because I want it to be open, that it is an appreciation, not a bribe. Because, of course, some clients in the end might turn against you to say, I gave him money. That was why he handled the matter the way he handled it. And tomorrow people will not be there. No wonder he was so passionate about this client. He was so serious with this client. So to avoid situations of that nature, please decline to enter into financial relationship with your clients and avoid collecting money from your clients or even borrowing money from your clients. Do not borrow money from your clients and do not lend money to your clients. These actions can easily confuse your clients and put your clients in an exploitative position in relation to you. A client that respects you will no longer respect his or her social worker that collected money from him or her and promised to pay the following day, but because something happened, maybe your bank refuses to pay you, you cannot pay that client. The client will begin to see you like someone that is not trustworthy. So to avoid damaging your reputation, please don't go, no matter how bad the situation is. Your client should not be the person you run to for financial assistance. Going forward, we'll now be looking at boundary crossing. Like we said, boundary crossing is like boundary violation, right? So boundary crossing occurs when a social worker is involved in a dual relationship. Remember, we said something earlier. Dual relationship refers to a situation where a social worker is having an additional relationship to the professional relationship with his or her clients. So dual relationship occurs when a social worker is involved in another relationship with his client or his colleague. Mind you, underline it. Dual relationship can exist not just with you and your clients, but with you and your colleague. Because the same position your colleague, you place your colleague, is the same position your client is, especially if your colleague happens to be your subordinate. So dual relationship also comes in when you expose or share personal information to help clients work through their own issues. But then it won't be unethical when this is done in a way to help the clients. But then, if you're sharing this information to a non-professional, it becomes a problem. Because this non-professional can escalate the news, so be careful. It is never acceptable to take advantage of vulnerable people or abuse them. A lot of persons who are saddled with the responsibility of taking care of the aged today are abusing the aged. Some are abusing children that they're supposed to take care of. So it will amount to boundary crossing, it will amount to boundary violation to take advantage of vulnerable people, right? The motivation might be a good one, but it will leave you or expose you to allegation of misconduct. So we want to be careful not to cross those boundaries. Now, what are the reasons? Why is it important for us to keep clear boundaries? One, it is important because it protects the therapeutic process. Like we said earlier, if you begin to feel so relaxed, so casual with your client, the purpose for that professional relationship will be defeated. The professional relationship would not achieve purpose. It would transgress to another business entirely. And by the time the client is being bombarded with too many informations and activities that are not related to the reason why he or she came to you in the first place, it would make the clients to be confused. Another one is protection of clients from exploitation. Now, this boundary crossing help the clients from being taken advantage of by a social worker. You know, the clients are vulnerable. They are shattered. They are depressed. Sometimes they don't even know what they are doing. Let's take, for example, some of these clients, because of their family, the problems they are experiencing in their family, have been deprived of sex for a very long time. And they come to you as a social worker. And because of that weakness, they tend to fall into giving in. Tomorrow, when they reconcile with their partner and they start revealing their secrets, you'll be found wanting. So this boundary violation or boundaries help to protect clients from being exploited. And it also helps protect the social worker from liability, because by the time you follow through these set guidelines, it will protect you from taking advantage of your client, which would also protect you from legal malpractice suits or any litigation, right? Going forward, we'll now be looking at boundaries, ethical boundary violation. What do we refer to as ethical boundary violation? Ethical boundary violation or ethics in social work are related to core values: social justice, the dignity of individual, the importance of human relationship, integrity, and competence. These are the core values of social work according to the Code of Ethics of National Association of Social Workers. Now, this code of ethics has been placed since 1996 to delineate the expectation for behavior, or to detect the expectation and behavior among social workers. Now, as a reference to determine what behavior is ethical in a given situation. So, ethics in social works are related to the core values, like we said earlier, namely service ethics and social justice, dignity, integrity, competence, importance of human relationship, right? Now, some of the basic ethical expectations of social workers include maintaining confidentiality, obtaining information, informed consent, and avoiding conflicts of interest. Now, any ethical boundary violation relates to colleagues. Social workers are expected to act ethically towards their colleagues as well as their patients. The Code of Ethics says that social workers should treat colleagues with respect and avoid giving unwarranted negative criticism or making demeaning comments. So it's unethical to even criticize your colleagues in a way that is not acceptable. There are rules, or there are laid down principles or laid down the channels to make complaints. Imagine criticizing your clients or your colleagues in the presence of your clients. That will make the client lose confidence in your colleagues. And that would also make the client lose confidence in the profession. So it is unethical to challenge or even criticize colleagues in a demeaning way, right? Or make negative comments, unwarranted negative comments, especially in front of your colleague's client. So if it is the best interest of your patient or client, the social worker should consult with colleagues. It is not unethical to consult with colleagues for the purpose of addressing your client issue. Social workers should involve clients in dispute with professional colleagues by asking for information or discussing the conflict with the clients. Sexual contact with students or trainees are forbidden as is sexual harassment of colleagues. So the issue of the boundary that is expected of the social worker to set regarding sexual contact with the clients, students, or trainees also applies to your colleagues. So please do not avoid sexually harassing your colleagues, or avoid situations that would lead to you harassing your colleagues sexually, because it will expose you to same dangers that it will expose you to if you should do same to your clients, right? Behavioral factors that may signal boundary violation. We'll take few of them. What are those behavioral factors that signals boundary violation? What are some of those things a social worker can do, or that you have done in time past, that shows that you've crossed that boundary, you've violated boundary, these set boundaries, right? One is when the social worker gives his client his or her personal email, cell phone number, home address, or even disclose his or her WhatsApp or Facebook account. That is a sign, a signal. So why we are saying this is because you might be opportune to sit in a panel to investigate if a particular social worker have engaged in malpractice suit, if a particular social worker have engaged in an unethical conduct. These are some of the things you want to identify to know if a social worker has actually done wrong or not. Another thing is when a social worker and client communicate with each other via text message, via call, cell phones, on the social worker's personal phone, phone and the company phone. So even when you're using the company's phone or the organization's phone to make that call, or the office phone, the kind of conversation you used to have with that client matters. Another example is when the social worker is warm-natured and enjoys physical connectedness with the client. Whenever you're with these clients, in fact, since morning you've not been happy. You carry pepper body for office, they walk up and down. Immediately your client just walks in. It lights up your mood. It's a signal. Now, another thing, why this is also important is because, one, you have a responsibility to your colleague. While working with your colleague and you begin to understand, notice that your colleague is going astray, you have liberty to call to your colleague's attention. In fact, a sincere social worker would from time to time engage in reflective practice. And one of the things you do in the course of reflective practice is to approach your colleague and ask, this is what I've been doing with my client, and this is how I feel towards my client. Please, do you think I'm doing too much? Now, by so doing, you're being open to receiving assistance from your clients. And when you're not being open or forward with regards to this, your client is also at liberty, or your colleague is also at liberty to approach you and point at those gray areas. And please, when your colleague comes to you to help you identify those gray areas, the best you can do for your client is to thank him and try to address those areas, because you're gradually sliding into violating or crossing the boundaries, right? So there are a lot of them. You do well to go through them in your material. Another one is when a social worker dresses provocatively on days when scheduled to see his or her clients. When a social worker spends inordinate amount of time with the clients. When the social worker talks frequently about the clients. All these are red flags, are signal that the client or the social worker is violating these professional boundaries, right? And when a social worker spends his or her own personal funds to support clients, it's also a signal. And of course, when a social worker engages in the use of drugs or alcohol with the clients, let's emphasize this. You know that people that uses substance and people that smokes, they have their own ways of connecting. And let me share this personal experience. I travel with my colleagues, my cousin, rather. I travel with my cousin to somewhere around Middle Belt, where to attend a program, and we spent the night in our uncle's compound. Now, just that evening, my cousin went out, stepped out, and came back in a short while. That was our first time of visiting that environment. But then I was surprised. When he came back, two guys came looking for him. And he went out with them again. The following day, another two persons came. And I was like, guy, are you that social? What is happening? He said, no worry, we try to do one or two. Because all the while, I never knew this my cousin smokes. So it was later I noticed that whenever he steps out, he goes out to smoke. So you see that it was easy for him to connect with his fellow smokers. Now, why are we saying this? Now, a social worker that smokes might easily want to connect, or a client might easily want to identify and connect with his or her social worker that smokes or uses the same substance like him or her. So please, be careful. Even mere sitting and smoking or drinking with your clients is a boundary violation. Now, this ethical boundary violation screen is like a skill. These are things personally or individually a social worker is expected to use to avoid boundary violation. Now, when you're being accused or you're suspected to have engaged in a malpractice suit, the committee that will be set up to investigate if you've actually gone astray or violated the set boundaries, ethical boundaries violation, will use this to ascertain, to make an informed decision as to whether you're guilty or not. So be careful. Now, what are the consequences? Let us now look at the consequences of boundary violations. Although the Code of Ethics is a guide rather than a law, ethical violation by social workers can result in professional sanctions, which includes less personal free time with friends and family, less job satisfaction, co-workers' frustration, burnout, compassionate fatigue, loss of job, loss of license, loss of professional identity, loss of peers, loss of personal relationship. I think we understand what it all entails, but let me just pick out a few and explain, like burnout. Burnout. How can the boundary violation lead to burnout to the social worker? Now, you see that this client that comes to you has problems, and you're not having, let's say, personal relationship with this client. The client wants to engage you 24/7, even when you're supposed to be resting. And it applies to loss of friends with families or families, in the sense that your character becomes questionable if your client begins to call you at odd hours of the night, when you're sleeping with your husband or your wife and your client that is a maid. Your client that is a male is now calling your wife. It begins to raise dust. Your husband will begin to look at you like, is my husband doing something, or is my wife doing something with her clients. And same applies to the man too. If the man happens to be the social worker, right? And you see yourself working overtime just to satisfy, and this will lead to burnout. Imagine you working with your clients, and after normal official hours, 4 o'clock, you're supposed to close and go back home. Your client now say, please, when you're going on, branch my side. You now branch to see your clients that you're not supposed to visit at home. You now stay with your clients, trying to work with your client, counsel your client. Probably what you're doing the things you're doing are not bad in themselves. You're counseling your client, you're not doing anything wrong. But then, you're not supposed to be there. Now, before you know it, it is 7 o'clock or it is 6 o'clock. You now say, my children are back. Oh, my husband will be back by now. No. You now rush, go to the market to get 1 or 2 things to cook. And before you finish cooking, for your family to eat, it's around 9-10 p.m. You now eat and sleep. Tomorrow, you now wake up late. You go to work late. And you won't even be active in the office. And when you're asked, what happened? I don't know. That is burnout. And gradually, it will affect your mental state. Please, let me use the opportunity to tell us. Most of the things we assist our clients with, we are not immune to them. We can also be faced with those challenges. So take time to take care of yourself. And one of the things you can do, or ways to take care of yourself, is to avoid burnout. And one of the ways to avoid burnout is to avoid boundaries violation. I know you want me to explain what compassionate fatigue is all about. From the name, from the offshoot, compassion, it has to do with your relationship with your colleague. Now, because you're empathetic with your colleague, it will now connect you with your colleague's feelings. By the time you because of your feelings or your pity for your colleague, you always want to engage your colleague, you always want to be there for your client rather, right? Your client, and this can also apply to your colleague. Because of this, you will now be weighed down by, not because of your own problems, you will now be weighed down by your client's problem. So that problem, that challenge you're experiencing because of your client's problem is what we refer to as compassionate fatigue. So compassionate fatigue oftentimes is as a result of secondary exposure to traumatic events. Your clients experience a traumatic event primarily and comes to share it with you. And because of your connectedness, because of your closeness with your clients, you begin to feel as if you experience those problems primarily and you're weighed down. That is compassionate fatigue. It will affect your ability to render services effectively, right? It will also affect your relationship with others. That's also one of the consequences of boundary violation. Conclusion. Remember, we said we are going to conclude this class today. So in conclusion, social work professional ethics and accountability is important for maintaining public trust and ensuring quality of social work services, as well as safeguarding the welfare and right of clients, safeguarding the welfare and right of our colleagues, and also upholding the reputation of the profession and even the organization you find yourself. It is supported through various mechanisms, which includes, but not limited to, professional supervision, peer review, ethical oversight bodies, and regulatory frameworks. So this is what we have for SWPCE 602. And we have gradually come to the end of this class with the title Professional Ethics and Accountability. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your nice contribution. I don't know if you have any question, please. If you have any question, I can see the comments of Shola. Good
I have a
day.
question, sir.
Please. Sorry, you asked. Let me read out Shola's comment. Please, anyone recording the class or anyone recorded this class from the beginning should please send to me. Please, because network keeps logging out. Okay. Please, if you can hear me or if you can reach out to Shola Egbejule, tell him or her that the recorded version of this class will be sent to the group in due time, right? So, if you have question, someone wants to ask question.
Yes, yes, sir.
Is it?
I want to ask.
Is
Yes.
it Akonma? Okay, please ask.
Akonma, yes. Your explanation of compassion fatigue, somehow it looks as if it's conflicting with empathy. Like you now understand your clients, you put your clients or you put yourself in your client's situation to be able to really understand what the person is passing through. And then it now becomes a violation of the boundary. That's on one side, one of the questions I want to ask. And then the second one is when we're talking about avoiding dual relationship, mention something about not having a financial relationship with the client, giving gifts or receiving gifts. And I wanted to ask, what if you are in a situation, you meet a client and you are in a situation where this client desperately needs financial assistance, might not be much, but needs it at that time. An example is when I was doing practicum. I'm a guidance counselor. I was doing practicum and in the school setting, and I encountered a student who had not paid her fees, and then the boarding school, and then the policy of the school was after a period, whether 2 weeks or so, I've forgotten the period they gave to them, grace. After that, those who didn't pay were not given food again in the refectory. And then this girl, I saw her, she was very hungry. She couldn't concentrate in class. And what really attracted me was I was passing by and I saw her lying on the locker. And then when I had an interaction with her, I discovered she had not had breakfast. And then according to her, she didn't eat the previous evening before sleeping. So as a person, as a human being, I just, felt sorry for the girl and then gave her something to go to the talk shop and get something for herself. So I don't know, was that crossing the boundary? And then this other one of trying to understand your client very well, and then you now put yourself in the client's shoe. Is that not like contradicting empathy? Just trying to understand.
Okay, let me begin with the second question. You did not violate any principle, right? By assisting that client to get food to eat, right? We only work with the living, not the dead. So that's by the way. But the point is financial transaction what we mean when we say you're not expected to have any financial transaction is not to borrow money from your clients and not to lend money to your client. It becomes a business. All you did was to render, or what you did is what we refer to as social service. You just render the social service. But the act of lending and borrowing is a transaction. It's a business transaction with your client. So that is what the profession frowns at. I hope that is clear. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yeah.
Fine. So
yes, sir.
The other question, the thing is, you see, by virtue of empathy, sometimes we see ourselves connecting with our clients and we begin to, if we are not careful, we are carried away to become so emotional. But then there is also a principle to help us balance our emotion, which refers to as non-emotional involvement. So the fact that you're expected as a social worker to be empathetic, that does not mean you should allow your empathy to the point of being emotional. There are two different things. So while you connect with your client's problem, is to help you feel the client's pain and to understand how urgent that problem is, which will now motivate you to render services that would alleviate that client's situation. Not to weigh you down, but if it begins to weigh you down, that is compassionate fatigue. And it will even get to a point where it can now be traumatic. And when it becomes traumatic, when you begin to, display traumatic symptoms, we now refer to it as vicarious trauma. So that is where it is wrong.
Okay.
I don't think that answers your question.
Yeah. I understand you, sir. You've answered my question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So while you're expected to connect with your clients via the principle of empathy, you should also use the principle of non-emotional involvement to balance it up. Do not allow yourself to be weighed down by those problems. Because by the time you're weighed down, the client you're even trying to assist will not be assisted by you, because you too, you need help at that point. At that point, you will need help. So you need to balance it up, right? So in all, you'll notice that principle, or the principles of social work, as well as the ethics of principle, at some point are interrelated to help us maintain balance.
Balance. Okay. Thank you, sir.
We have the hand of, let me take the next hand, Angela Mwakwo.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Mine is not like a question, kind of. Mine is more like an appreciation. I want to thank you especially on behalf of the whole class, for your wonderful lecture. It's been awesome. Like I felt bad when you said it's ending today, but I'm strong again, because I know we can always reach out to you personally via WhatsApp and all. We are not your clients, so we can still continue our relationship, sir. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are not your clients, so we'll still chat to you on WhatsApp, reach out to you when we have issues, and also we can continue to guide those.
Thank you.
I'm glad
right.
our paths crossed. Bye-bye, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate. Okay, we have the hand of Mercy Praise.
Good morning, class, and good morning, sir.
Good morning.
A wonderful lecture, and you're an excellent lecturer. Thank you so much. The way you have imparted us. Mine is actually to my colleagues. So the issue he discussed with us today is very, very important and critical. If you find yourself in a mix-up situation, or you are discerning enough to see it coming, you could actually refer a client to another of your colleague. Let me say something. I work in University of Lagos, and student comes in different form, in different shape, with different kind of life circumstances. So now, one of my guiding principles is that if a student show up, depending on the format that presents, I will know whether I will, be able to guide this student appropriately, or whether I will refer this student to somebody else in his own department. So I have cultivated a very good relationship with lecturers, in the sense that because I'm the one that will interpret the university guidelines as it regards defilement, leave of absence, a studentship, I have used that platform to be friendly with them. So at times, I can know a particular lecturer will take on a particular student. Why do I do that? Some students, their problem is so enormous, maybe coming from home, and then mix up with academic issues whereby they are not attending lectures, and they are not showing up with their assignments, so they already having problem with the department. So in that case now, the student is running away from two posts: problem from the home, problem from department. And if I find myself to take on that particular problem because I am in that faculty, that will create a working problem between me and the lecturers who are engaging these students at the level of a platform of teaching and where the student is failing. So if I could work with that particular lecturer involved, I will friendly hand over that student without creating a work-related situation that will not be good or will not look like I'm taking on the side of the student against the department or the lecturer. At times I go outside my faculty, I engage another faculty officer, say, please, ma, come help me with this student. You present it as an outsider. And then I will do the paper trailing. So anytime the student paper comes to my table, I know, oh, this candidate. I will be more keen on making sure that this child come out of the rut and continue with the education so that the child doesn't drop out. So when I'm listening to this lecture today, I said, our lecturer have done a great job to expose this particular area, because compassion, yes, empathy, yes, but there are issues, like he said, boundaries and relationships involved within those boundaries. So, sir, I'm really, really happy for today's lecturer and my colleagues. I'm wishing everyone all the best in this our journey. As you are meeting them, just know that there are times, if you cite or you design that there is going to be complication down the line, immediately move out of that particular case or call somebody else to handle that case. And that way you'll be safe and sound, because social work is another big thing coming in Nigeria. So that disciplinary issue will always be on top of the game. It will always be there accompanying us. Thank you so much, my colleagues. I'm happy that I'm in the same class with you.
Thank you for your wonderful and insightful and kind words, right? We appreciate all of these. In fact, I'm happy and I'm glad that we are beginning to have people of character dropping into the profession, and definitely we will make a change, right? So wherever you find yourself, just like she just said, the last commenter said, that is what we refer to as practice wisdom. Practice wisdom. You please avoid that mentality of only me, it must be done by me, me syndrome. Not everything you will do. No matter what you do, you cannot do it all. And if you die, life continues. So do what you can do, apply wisdom. Your job is not to take on anybody or to pick on anybody. Your job is to make a change, positive change. And social workers are that driving force, that mechanism that drives and pushes for change. So we must be known as people of character. I can see the hand of Anieti Asukwo. Anieti Asukwo, please. You can unmute your mic and speak. Hello. Your mic,
Yes, good morning, sir. Good morning. I appreciate these lectures. Sir? Hello, sir. I appreciate these lectures.
I hear you now.
Good morning, our esteemed lecturer. Seriously appreciate lecture this session. What to find out, like you kept on mentioning that maybe you cannot give your own contacts to a client. What if you are not working?
Miss Anita Asupo, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello. Anita,
it may be network issue, sir.
Okay, yes, but I want to be. I don't know. I don't know if she can hear me. Okay. I wish she can hear me. I didn't get the question, but I think I understand where she was driving to, right? That's what if you find yourself in an organization? Please, Mahmoud Nyaku, or is it Ngozi rather? Ngozi Josh, please mute your mic. It's disturbing us. All right, so if you happen to find yourself in an organization where you don't have an official phone number, how do you let your clients reach you? Fine. I repeat, there's what we refer to as practice wisdom. Every law, every principle has reasons why those laws or principles were made in the first place. So in the absence of some modalities, naturally as humans, we always strive for survival. Life must still go on. So there might be an exception in this situation. There might be an exception to this rule. Two, one of the things you can do is to have a personal work line that clients can reach out to you only on those lines. And while you work or recommend your agency to have an active phone number, right? Secondly, you can still give them your line. Yes. Secondly, an exceptional. Secondly, you can still give them your line, but limit the time they can reach out to you. Tell them, okay, you see this line. Once it is 5, don't even bother to call me. But then another challenge is, you see, this can only work when in the West, where we have social workers working 24 hours. But I doubt if there is any, even in teaching hospitals where we have social, and I'm not sure that department used to work 24 hours. Like the nurses and the medical doctors and other professionals, right? So ideally, social work professionals should begin to push, in Nigeria, should begin to push for a 24-hour shift. So that even when your client is trying to reach out to you, when you're off, the client can be referred to your colleague on duty. I hope that addresses your question. Aniti Asukwa, I hope that addresses your question. Okay. All right. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, sir, clearly.
Yes, sir. We are hearing you, sir.
Let's not take up the
Choice, yeah.
Let's
On
take
social
up,
media.
I didn't get that. You
Hello?
say what? What did you say?
You also said we should try to hide our identity or maybe preserve our identity. I mean, being on social media, maybe you have, let's say you have pages that people are following you. They can one day maybe get to see your contacts and maybe start to follow you and something like that. Or how do
Why
you
would
go about that?
you even post your personal contact on social media? It's wrong. No, not like the person cannot follow
I
you.
mean,
Not like the person cannot follow you online. The person can follow you online.
yeah.
But protect your social media page in a way whereby people cannot tag you. For example, if you go online, you cannot tag me, even if we are friends, unless you can tag me, but it won't reflect that you have been tagged unless I accept it.
Hello?
Yes.
You went up, I couldn't hear you again, how you ended it up.
Okay, is that Aneti Asukwo?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, we'll get back
It
to
was
you.
it was breaking.
I will get back to you, don't worry. I was answering the question asked by your colleague on social media.
Okay, sir.
Not like you hide your identity. They will know you, they identify you, they can follow you, no doubt. But there are some persons, if you go
Personally, I
to,
also ask concerning the social media.
okay, you also ask concerning the social media. Okay, fine. These two is
The
addressing, should
line
address,
has started
right?
breaking.
So if your clients begins to make some comment on social media, don't comment. Don't make contributions. And if your clients wants to tag you, you should have succeeded in protecting your account to make it difficult, or not to make it possible for people to tag you. Like I said, sometimes you will see people, they will travel out, go and enjoy, but they'll come and tag you in Transcorp Hotel with 99 others. You, when you know go that hotel, go follow shop, they will tag you. Even when they went there to do wrong thing, and it becomes questionable. So did you join them in doing this wrong? Because on the social media they're telling us you were tagged. That means you were there with them. So it becomes a problem where those in the law in law profession will tell you they'll be using defense of alibi to justify or to defend that claim, right? So not like you can hide on social media, but you just need to keep your settings in a way that will be difficult for people to tag you, or even to make unnecessary comments, or to share unnecessary posts, especially your client posts on the internet, right? And if you think there are things that there are services you need to render, then your page must be designed according to those services you want to render, not necessarily bearing your name. By so doing, the page can now stand on its own with a different name. That page will be known by that name, but you're the one running it. I don't know if that is clear. Does that answer that question? I don't know who asked that question. I can't remember who asked that question. Okay, going forward, Faith, you asked another question and I answered it when you were not here. I answered that question when you were not here. I want to believe you can hear me now, Faith. Is it Faith? Or sorry, it's not Faith, it's Asukwo, and she's not here too. Let's take up another hand, please. Shola, I think, Shola, have you asked your question? Please quickly unmute and speak.
Good day, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Because of the network, it was going off and on. When you explained these professional bodies, I got some itch, so I could not really get it clear. Insurance and all that.
Professional bodies? I don't understand your question.
It was instance when you were speaking some proposals like NGO, CS and all that.
No, I was saying that for now we don't have professional bodies. The existing professional bodies are more like toothless bulldog, because they are not active in challenging some problems faced by social workers in Nigeria. And maybe it's because we are yet to have our national body, the Council of Social Work. And we believe that once that body is instituted, the social work professionals will be protected, and we can gladly and will I say confidently take up social issues, public issues of public concern without being scared, because we have the support, the protection, and the backing of this body.
Okay, like the NGO, I understand what you're saying. Like the NGOs now, they're not really, there are some people that portray themselves as social workers.
I made reference to the NGO when I said very dark man at some point said he's the only NGO in Nigeria that has integrity. And I said there are so many social work NGOs in Nigeria that are owned by social workers and managed by social workers, and they refuse to come up to challenge that very dark man assertion, right? And that was when I made mention of NGOs, right? And I said there was supposed to be a body protecting, a social work body organization protecting NGOs. And even by right, all these NGOs were supposed to be manned and managed by social workers. That's just the truth. No matter what their mandates are.
They have to be regulated.
Yes, they are supposed to be regulated by social workers. So because the reason why they are doing what they are doing is because they are not regulated by social workers.
And
So
right now, social workers, they don't have association. That's the main.
That is exactly what I said, right? And until we have it, very soon that body will be instituted, the national body, because we have a law, an act signed by the president, passed by the National Assembly and signed by the presidency, right? Which allows us to have a national body, Council of Social Work. Once that body is instituted, we have a president, the chairman, and the rest. We will begin to implement and regulate most of these bodies and license as well as control most of the activities of social work in Nigeria. And that is when most of us who are social workers will begin to enjoy the profession. Does that answer your question?
It answered it perfectly. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, Joy Prince. Zurike Joy Prince.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Your question, please.
I enjoyed this class. Sir, I have okay. The last person was asking for a professional body. I think there is one. National Association of Social Worker. I think I know there is one like that.
That's what we are saying now. That's all I say. National Association of Social Work. Like you said, it's an association.
Yes, sir.
Right? It's an association. There is little or nothing they can do.
Okay.
Let's get things in perspective.
Okay.
You understand? There's
Yes,
a
sir.
difference between a professional body and an association body, as well as a professional a body that is saddled with the responsibility of regulating and licensing professionals in a particular field.
Okay,
and
sir.
the body that is supposed to do that is yet to be instituted, although we have in law, which is our Council of Social Work of Nigeria. Just like we have Council of Legal Education of Nigeria, Council of Nurses, Council of Pharmacists, medical, as you can name them. In fact, even in the medical field, we have different, bodies in the medical field, but we still have one that oversees their activities.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get the point.
Yes, sir. So
and for now, we are yet to have that one that oversees the general activities of social work in Nigeria. Ask your question.
What do you do as a social worker in a community setting where culture interferes with human rights violation? That's my number one question. Then number two,
that is a very personal. If you have a project, like I said last time, if you have a project or a program you're running and you have questions to help you pull through, please private chat me. That is consultation. You're consulting me.
Okay, sir. Another question is like I have colleagues or there are colleagues who study sociology and who had been practicing social work before this institute came. So they've not undergone this training. There is no license. So what can we do for them? Or in this scenario, is there any way that social work body can come in, maybe to tell them to go for this, to go for that? Because when you look at them, most of them are not even, they don't even know the ethical conduct.
So it's for you to advocate now. You're not aware. It's for you to tell them. It applies to me too. From BSc down to PhD level is social work. But when I finished my BSc and MSc, I never knew of, or maybe thought of the importance of being licensed, because the idea of being licensed in Nigeria wasn't there. But when I got this idea, I had to key in, right? So there too needs to key in. They need to be licensed. Because even when the body is instituted, that national body of social work, Council of Social Work of Nigeria, that's one of the things they will want to do. If you're not licensed, please don't practice. The fact that you have will I say a degree in pharmacy, until the body of pharmacists, the council, national body license you, you can never be a pharmacist. Same applies to the medical profession, medical doctor. Same applies to even the lawyers, right? So fine, granted, you have a BSc in social work, but are you licensed? These are two different things. Are you licensed? That's a different ball game. Some of you here are lawyers, right? You can graduate with your LLB, right, or your Bachelor of Law, right? You can be working. You can work with that your degree, but until you go to law school, you attend law school, you cannot appear before any courts in Nigeria as a lawyer or even the Supreme Court, right? But you can use the degree to work somewhere else. You can be employed as a secretary, you can be employed as even a banker. But until you attend law school and you're licensed, then you will now have the powers to appear before any courts as a lawyer. So that is the idea. You have a degree in social work, fine, no big deal. But before you can do social work related jobs, you must be licensed. So we are gradually driving there. I hope that is clear. That answers your question.
Yeah, sir, the last one, sir. Sir, and how will the exam be like? Will it be like CBT, objective, or objective?
It's CBT. It's computer based.
Objectives, right?
I think multiple choice questions and open-ended questions too.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Choice questions. Few open-ended questions where you need to fill in the gap.
So no theory at all.
No theory. No theory.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I have the hands of. I can see the hand of. Okay, Jovita, Obiano Jovita.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Mine is an appreciation. I actually want to appreciate you for the time in giving us this lecture. I think you brought it down to the level that we can understand. And I'm really happy. From some of the things you are teaching us, I was actually wondering, some people that have this kind heart, practicing social work, where you say that we don't sympathize with people, but we practice empathy. Sometimes you also try to put yourself in that person's shoe, but yet not sympathizing with that person. I really appreciate you, and it will help us to make the difference between the two when we are dealing with our clients. So we want to say a big thank you to you. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you. You guys are wonderful, and I want to use this opportunity to say you're treading on the right course, and whatever you're doing, keep doing it well. Be known as someone with integrity. Social work is something you do with passion. By the time you have passion for what you do, you would enjoy it. Even this lecture, not like it is convenient, but these are things I love doing. I had to wake up early in the morning to start preparing. And if you notice, most times I had to adjust my time. It's not because it is convenient for me, but if you're passionate about what you're doing, if you're passionate about what you're doing, you do it, right? You'll be happy. You know, sometimes people feel that
between 4, 5, or 6.
But if you're happy with what you're doing, that is where you get the satisfaction.
Can you read the second?
Claret, can you off your mic? So if you're passionate about what you're doing, you achieve success. And like I said earlier, I am open to for collaborations, for partnership, you can chat me up, ask whatever questions you have. Most of the questions you raise that are too personal, like asking me what you will do because of a particular program or project you have at hand, I ask you guys to private chat me, please. So it's not me trying to avoid answering those questions, but because it's more like a consultation services, right? So take care and enjoy the rest of your day, and I wish you success in your exams. We're looking forward to seeing you one-on-one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's nice.
Thank you, sir. Well done, sir.